it red! Welcome to the Explosion Network's spoiler review discussion of Stranger Things Season 3. My name is Dylan Blind. Joining me, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here to talk about those strange things.
They are indeed strange things. You can, of course, find this at explosionnetwork.com or youtube.com/explosionnetwork, or if you just want to see our faces, or if you just want to listen to it, it'll be available on our review discussions podcast feed, which can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitches, all the things. Just search for Explosion Network or review discussions by Explosion Network. I reviewed every single episode of Stranger Things Season 3. It's on explosionnetwork.com. So if you would like to hear, well, not hear, but read, I guess, those things. But I think it's safe if you look at my trajectory of scores to say that I liked it. The lowest score I gave to an episode was a 7.5 for episode 2 or 3. I think it was 3. Yeah, 3. And then the highest I gave was 9.5. But I'd say that it would average out to probably like an 8.9 or something, probably between all my scores, because I gave a few 9s and mostly 8.5s, I feel. So I think it's very safe to say that I quite liked this season. Did you like this season though, Ash?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's probably the best season so far. Or the most complete or enjoyable season so far. Yeah, I think. Yeah. And
for any particular reasons, or?
I think they just utilized the mythology the best so far, and just obviously the new additions to the cast. Just I guess some of the relationship stuff was pretty good, and then obviously it ends on. I think it ended on probably the best 2 episodes of the show so far.
Yeah, I it's hard to say like, oh, this is definitely my favorite episode, like in reference to the final episode, because I'd have to go back because it's been so long since I watched season 1. But I kind of, if anything, it made me kind of want to. I'm probably not going to, but it made me want to solely to be like, where does this all settle out and how far have we come, and just out of interest in these sorts of things. But I'd say that just off the top of my head that the finale was probably my favorite episode of the show, because I just feel like it culminates better than any of the other finales, but it also like finishes stuff or like makes use of stuff from season 2, and I wasn't the biggest fan of season 2. And of course I'm specifically meaning like characters they brought in, like Billy or whatever, stuff like that, like he's specifically Billy, to see characters like that kind of come around and actually have a point, I guess, as someone who felt I didn't like fully understand why they were even bothered to be introduced in the second season, other than trying to get Max in. But I'm like, but was Billy necessary to have Max kind of situation, And I had like a very up-down relationship with season 2. And I know a lot of people kind of did because they hate that one episode, but
yeah,
it's not just that one episode. I felt season 2 in general was just very like rocky. It didn't have a very consistent quality to it overall, I felt. Still liked it fine. Definitely feel like season 3 is the best season for me, and then I'd 1 just below it because 1 is kind of, of course, the classic. The
I think this season had probably the best build of like over the 8 episodes. It had a nice. Everything seems normal, and then it slowly ramped up.
Well, it's kind of how it always happens, isn't it? Though
how it goes, but I feel like it probably worked better this season.
And then I suppose the only one like thing that remains that kind of annoys me about this season, and that connects it to every other season, is like, once again, the build is the same sort of thing somewhat, where it's like normal people get split off and then we follow their separate like side stories. They come together at the end kind of thing. But it's like, no one fucking talks to anyone. No one who's discovering this weird shit going on bothers to be like, hey, might tell other people who for the last couple seasons I've also experienced weird shit
to be fair, there's like no mobile phones and everybody's not carrying their walkie-talkies at the same time, so
I mean, yeah, I suppose, but it's still just like annoying, I guess, somewhat to watch. Just be like, if some of you's bothered to converse a little bit here, we might have got somewhere with this. All right, so we're going to break down couple key points I wanted to discuss about this season, though. The first one I want to start with is one of my other problems I had with the season, which is that I felt like Nancy and more so specifically Jonathan felt very waysided, I guess. You know what I mean? Like their story felt the least consequential and important of the bunch of them. Now, Nancy had this thing of like sexism in the workplace, which they didn't really go, apart from building them up to be villains, which then they kind of kill off in the fourth episode or whatever it was. She never really, that wasn't as good. To me, seeing them kill and them turn into monsters wasn't as cool as if she actually just got to own them like at the newspaper properly, you know what I mean? Yeah. Is my thing. And then she had the thing, she was the one chasing the rat, she was the one deeply investigating it, which leads them to where they're going. So it's like, sure, but then Jonathan just until the last episode, I feel like he really was like tag along.
He was
sidekick, very not so important. Whereas season 1, deeply somewhat distraught brother trying to find and help his mum who's, you know, distraught and all this sort of stuff, a lot more important there. Season 2, chasing down justice for Barb or whatever you want to call it storyline.
Well, again, season 2 he was playing the sidekick to Nancy. Nancy was the driving force behind that. So.
I feel like he was more involved though. He was like, even with the rat thing this season, he wasn't like, fuck yeah, let's get this rat story. It was Nancy chasing along.
Well, he was concerned about his job, so
I guess
he was being sensible.
I guess if you want to go that way.
Yeah.
So you feel like they were fine, or do you feel like, because
I think they serviced the plot, which is what the point was.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously setting up the journalist guys for them to fight later, and then they were exploring the setup for the Mind Flayer. Just following that story, and obviously that pretty much brought everybody together when they eventually were chasing down Will to talk to him later in the season. So, I mean, it wasn't overly exciting. It seemed like all the issues that they had at the start of the season were just dropped, which you would expect if there was a giant flesh monster trying to kill you.
Somewhat.
Those seemed not important after that.
Yeah, somewhat. Because I guess the thing with this, like, and we'll discuss Robin in a minute, but it's like you introduce more characters, you're eventually going to run into a point of introducing.
You can't help do everything for everybody.
Yeah, you're going to run into a point where you're suddenly introducing too many characters, I guess. Okay, so talking about the new additions, let's talk about Robin, who I feel like most people, ourselves included. I mean, I've seen you tweet that you're a big fan. I was writing up that I was a big fan as time progressed. Although it wasn't like as soon as I saw her, I was like, this character's the best with her quick one-liners and quips. It was it was kind of like the episode where she solves the Russian thing and whatever else. I was like, I'm liking the way this character's going, and then of course her story progresses to a point that I found like she was one of the most well-written, interesting characters, I suppose, in the whole series, and I definitely felt like she was a worthwhile addition to the Stranger Things cast and group of characters and stuff. But she has kind of taken the world by storm, I guess, to a degree. She was one of the most tweeted about characters for differing degrees. Even if it's just people tweeting, "Holy fuck, I didn't know Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke had a daughter." That's funny. Like, so you've got Maya Hawke.
Any publicity is good publicity. So
yeah, this is true. So you got Maya Hawke as Robin, introduced in the season as this girl that what's his name? Mr. Blake on his name. Steve works with. Sorry, thank you. That Steve works with. Yeah, what are your feelings?
Ships Ahoy, right?
Ships Ahoy, which is a real place. Well, they at least had it set up somewhere, because I saw press went there like last week. A bunch of people got invited to go there because I saw some people I follow like in the, the movie TV review circles or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And they were tweeting out pictures from there, and then other people were tweeting like, "What the fuck? How come I didn't get invited to this?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. I want to go to real life Ships Ahoy. Can't eat the ice cream."
Yeah, that's an issue.
Would take a selfie though, So, So how do you feel about Robin and her story this season?
Oh, she was so good. I think they probably realized they needed to give Steve more to do, and they didn't want to repeat themselves with the what's his name? Dustin and Steve thing again.
Well, so they continued it, but they continued it, but added on to it, I guess.
Yeah, they just added another dimension. I enjoyed her evolution and the evolution of their friendship through the entire season. I think that 7th episode scene where they're talking in the bathroom after they're on drugs,
which is pretty funny.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire series. Just actually their whole interrogation scene as well. Just them talking about shit and just giving each other stuff. Yeah, I think it was very awesome.
Yeah,
those were the scenes I enjoyed the most out of, like, obviously there was the 4 diverging storylines throughout the season. I think it was that group, the Russian infiltration group, that I was most interested in. So
yeah.
I was always happy when they cut back to them.
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of the best scenes in the show, even, to be honest, because I just felt like she was so well written that she wasn't written as like the reveal that she's gay didn't come as a, like, who'd have thought it? Yeah, she's been like, she wasn't written as a stereotypical, I guess what you'd describe as a stereotypical gay woman or lesbian or
especially
what
for that period.
Especially for that period, exactly. And then also for the period, I found it good that they weren't like, well, realistically, Steve would have been like, oh, gay. You know, I don't know. They made it a positive feedback. They didn't make it some like he got cock blocked by, you know, the girl by her sexual orientation. I thought it was just well written and positive messaging, I guess, to have in a show where it's like she comes out the way she does and they're building up this thing. Steve, like, you know, kind of says like, I'm really into you. And then when she comes out and then and says, Steve like kind of takes that moment and then he's just like straight back to being like, she's not even good at singing, because she tells her who she has the crush on, and then he's just automatically like into shit staring with her and all that sort of stuff. So I think like she was really well written. It's probably one of the best performed scenes too between the both of them. I mean, they were both great. Even though one of my favorite scenes was just like Steve getting the fuck beat out of him and then they're tied up together and stuff, because I thought that was quite brutal. Even though they're obviously like what's supposed to be like older teenagers. What are they supposed to be like?
Well, they just finished college, high school, so probably like 17, 18.
Yeah, I was like, are they 17, like maybe on the edge of 18 or whatever it is? But either way, they're still kind of youngish. So seeing like Steve beat up to that point and again, and then like that tied up and all that sort of stuff. It was like one of the scenes where it really dread, I suppose, to the thing, like realism. It wasn't like no one could get hurt in this. It's like people could die.
Yeah,
they could. People could actually die, and people did die by the end of the season. So that's the thing. Yeah, so I definitely loved their edition of Robin, and it's funny because like Max was fine. I wasn't the hugest Max fan last season. Max, kind of like a lot of characters from season 2, I felt like was a lot better used this season, and like teaming up with Elle and having Elle grow this relationship with Max was really good, especially with Max having the whole like thing with Elle last year. Jealousy thing, jealousy storyline, I suppose. So it's like their whole storyline was built around the guy last season, whereas they have them just build a just normal friendship this season. So it's
friendship,
like, so it's like I feel like they just fixed a lot of problems with the characters from last season, and then the new character they add is great from the outset. So it's like the more time you spend writing spending the time to work on these things, the better they turn out. Who'd have thought that would happen instead of rushing out a second season real fast. So talking about wrapping up characters and stuff, one of the big things is obviously Billy's storyline. It's funny because if you track I can track my own thought process with all the reviews I wrote, because I'd never done it. Obviously, one review for every single episode. I found it like an interesting thing to do. But then, like, if I look back on it in the season premiere, I'm like, oh, fucking Billy. Like, I hate Billy. Like, he's a shit character. Why is he still in this show? Why are we bothering to do anything with him? But then by the time we get around to the season finale, I'm like, okay, they kind of paved the way for his redemption somewhat. Obviously, that doesn't make up for all the shitty things he's done and whatever, but he did somewhat redeem himself in those final moments, of course, sacrificing himself. And they brought a little bit more heart to his character, a little bit more history with his mother and all these sorts of things. And then even having Max actually be upset about his death a little bit more shows a bit more to building their relationship, not to just be this completely dysfunctional thing. She did have some like love and respect for him as the older stepbrother, I guess, and stuff like that. How did you feel about how Billy was used as this conduit for most of the season, but they still built on his human story as well at the same time?
Yeah, I thought they made him a worthwhile character. Obviously, not the one note bad dude for that he was last year. Almost a psychopath, really.
Yeah, like
made him.
It reminded me of, you haven't seen It, have you? No. But for people who have seen it, reminds me, I can't remember the character's name, but there's a character like similar age that's older than the young kids in it. That's pretty much a similar sort of like psychopath type thing. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, there wasn't much of actual Billy because he was pretty much taken over
the
pretty early on. Yeah. You do get glimpses of him throughout the season. That's probably what builds what your affection and care for him. But I thought I think it's Darcy Montgomery. Did a great job.
Yes. He's from Australia.
Yep, Australian.
Perth or somewhere.
Power Rangers.
Is that what he's in? Power Rangers? Something.
Yeah. The big rebooted movie. With Naomi Scott.
Didn't even recognize him.
Go check that out.
I've watched it, but didn't recognize him. Yeah, I didn't realize it.
The mullet it's the mo. Just makes it unrecognizable.
Yeah, and the mullet, I guess, or whatever we got going on. So at least it's like they introduced, I find it funny because it's like they introduced him in season 2, like everyone's like, I don't know. I was definitely like, this character's kind of shit. I don't see the point of him.
Unless he was not wearing a shirt, you didn't care.
Yeah, well, basically. And then it's like season 3, they fix the character. And they're like, well, the only way we can kind of redeem this character is we'll redeem him, but we've got to kill him at the same time. So it's like, okay, bye. But
we're going to have him mind controlled all season.
Do we need to do? Yeah. Quickly on that whole Max thing too, not need to spend much time on it. I definitely feel like I didn't have it down as the main point of discussion because I didn't want to discuss every single storyline. Don't want this to go forever, obviously. But the whole thing with, I did enjoy the Max L. What's the boy's name?
Will?
No, not Will. Not Will.
Not Will.
Not the
damn it.
God damn it. Yeah, hold on. Mike. There you go.
Mike
L and Max, they're like whole Max is like, oh boy, take all this thing.
It was a sort of like a love triangle. It was more like a friendship triangle.
Yeah, I guess it's like something like that. But I found that well written too, or like because it was like it's a storyline and like a message that I suppose applies to everyone, not just kids. Is like is the applicable.
I mean, when you think about it, it's the same thing that Mike was doing with Hopper as well, where they both wanted to have 11 to themselves. Yeah.
Well, Hopper doesn't want his little girl growing up. He wants to. And we hear all that in the letter at the end, miss playing board games and all these sorts of things. Mike obviously just, in his mind, wanted Elle to spend every second with her because he is in love with her and whatever else, which is like on fine. It's like, it's not that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's like,
it's not a healthy thing.
It's like leeway, obviously. And I like how the season didn't build up to her being like, fuck you to either one of them and being like, this is the answer and this is the way. It kind of was like this. Even though they're little kids, they
learned
a more adult lesson of like how to, multiple parties and time and spread and healthy relationships and let's talk. I thought it was just kind of well written, especially since they're kids and they're doing this like very like adult relationship story somewhat inside of it, which was quite interesting. Okay, so let's get on to Hopper then, of course.
Wait, can we just touch on one other person who was introduced season 2?
Yeah, go for gold.
Erica.
Oh,
gold,
yes.
All season. Incredible.
The funny thing about her is I honestly kept forgetting she was even in season 2 until I clicked on like the actress's name after one episode and I saw she was like credited. And I was like,
yeah, she was in like one episode where they go to Caleb's house.
When they go to his house, yeah. That was it. But I kept forgetting.
And they're like, damn, she's so funny when you put her all through season 3.
She was pretty funny. I give her that. And I kind of didn't click on it because I didn't know the actress's name that she was going to be a main part, but she was in the opening credits every episode. Yeah. So even from episode 1 where she was just showing up, because she was only showing up for like 1 minute, the first like 3-4 episodes or whatever it was. But by the end of it, she's a key part, I guess. Yeah. So there you go. Once again, another character from season 2 that they actually did some more interesting things with. I like how at the end too, they gave a D&D in the the thing, like,
because she's a nerd.
Like, she's a nerd, really.
Everybody's a nerd. You might not think you're into nerdy shit, but you are into nerdy
That's
shit.
the message of.
That's the message
of the Stranger Things, right? Yeah. All right, so Hopper, obviously one of the key parts of Stranger Things, one of the main characters, and obviously one of the main characters and key parts of season 3. How do we feel about his death? Now, we're not going to talk about the mid-credits thing, and we're just going to kind of pretend we can open that discussion in a second. So let's just 100% pretend that that doesn't exist and Hopper's dead. How do you feel about them killing him? And how do you feel about the show going forward without him? And do you think it was the right decision? Do you think it was like a really emotional scene? How did it work for you?
Yeah, I think it really worked for me. I think it makes sense in the world that one of that group didn't survive this. They can't go like every single time they get through. They're the only ones who live through everything, I guess.
No repercussions.
No repercussions. Yeah, I think they played it beautifully. I think it made sense at the time, and I think it'll be interesting to see the impact it has on everybody. Obviously, you see a brief glimpse of what it means to Elle and Joyce as well, but I guess going into season 4, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I found the scene. It's funny though, because I saw it coming from the second that Joyce sat down and said that they will go on that date coming up Friday. I'm like, he's dying.
Oh,
that was it. That was the I sniffed it out as soon as that happened. But even though I was kind of like, I think they're gonna kill him, it was still very impactful, I found, and worked really quite well. And the shot that I've got in the background of the video at the moment, and is the shot they cut to of him like teary-eyed as he like nods to Joyce that it's okay. I think that's just one of like the standout shots. Like one of the, if I'm going to think about season 3, it's probably going to be like that shot is one of the most memorable shots, because it's a close up. It's, you know, he's sad, he's teary-eyed, whatever, obviously, but then he's just like, do it. Like, he's not questioning, and Joyce is not questioning, kind of thing, and it's obviously very sad and everything. And then the whole emotion of the final, what would it be, like 10 plus minutes, I suppose, like the epilogue section of the final episode, I suppose, is built on him and his legacy and what he's taught Elle as his daughter and what he's done for everyone, and all, you know, him reading that letter aloud, which well, not really a letter, his speech that he never actually got to give her,
his speech which we find out gave.
Yeah, which we find out he actually built upon using his own words after he got home from speaking to Joyce about it. So
writing it down with Joyce,
yeah. And I like the way that whole scene played out and was shot, and the music, and just having him say it over. I thought that was very emotional, and I wasn't like weeping, but at the same time I was just kind of sitting there like, you know, hand over mouth, like, oh my God, this is like actually a lot more emotionally impactful than I could have.
Emotional, yeah.
Than I thought it was probably going to be, I guess, even though I thought it might be coming. Because I like Jim as a character. I find him a conflicting character because I don't think he's I never wanted him to get with Joyce, is the way I say it. Like, it's not like I dislike him as a person fully, but I'm like, I like Joyce too, and I think she's good. And I'm like, I don't want you to get together because, I'm like...
unless he changes dramatically as a person.
Yes. I'm like, there's just too much... problems with Jim for me to be happy with them
Listen,
and being in a
even
relationship.
Rachel Wood came out and said a post about him being an abusive sort of person that you wouldn't really want to date. She probably hit the nail on the head a little bit.
There you go.
She got a fair bit of spike for that.
Did she? Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree to a point, but I don't think saying that like that's like I don't want them to get together because it's probably not going to be a good relationship. That doesn't mean I'm like, oh, Jim's a horrible person and like I hope the character dies or something ridiculous like that. It's just when you're watching the show and they're hinting at them potentially getting together and they're doing this whole like back forth thing. Obviously, I'm sitting there like, no, like don't, just don't do that. I don't want that to be a thing. I much prefer you just as this dysfunctional fucking crime fighting duo that we've got going on, and I find that a lot better.
I did enjoy Murray's outburst in the car about them hooking up, which was similar to what he did with Nancy and what's his face in the second season.
Yeah, but
super effective then as well.
But the thing I noted when I brought that up, when I wrote about it too, is I liked how it was like, you're in love, just fucking get it on or something. It was just like, you have sexual chemistry, just pull over the side of the car. Well, he didn't say fuck, but he was like, just pull over the side of the car and just get it on. He wasn't like, you're in love, like you can love each other, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you've obviously got sexual chemistry and you just need to get it out.
Just need to purge your system.
Yeah, just purge the system, exactly. So the final thing, I'm fine with them killing him if the show continued without him. I think it's a bold choice, obviously, because he's David Harbour was I was like meant to play him. David Harbour was kind of, the show didn't make him as an actor, obviously, but I feel like without this show,
no, he was the more seasoned of the actors on the crew.
Yeah, and it elevated him.
Obviously, being an adult
after this, it's like, would we have had him as Hellboy if it wasn't for him on this show and whatever else? I highly doubt it. I feel like the show kind of.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but
yeah, well, still, you know what I mean. Like it elevated his career to be a more notable name, somewhat. I feel so. Yeah. It's interesting. We'll come back. And talk about the potential of him still being alive in just a sec, but I'll cover the first part of the mid-credit scene first. So the mid-credit scene, Russian facility, which is interesting on its own because it's the first time they're potentially hinting at what, especially with Joyce moving out of Hawkins and then like they're showing us Russia. It's like season 4 seems like it could be more global, I guess, or bigger or something like that. It's not just like Hawkins. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows? How do you do that though?
I don't know. I really don't know. So the guards walk up to this door and they say something, which we'll come back to. And then they grab another prisoner out of the cell block or whatever it is supposed to be, and they drag the person down and they feed it to a baby or stage 1, 2, whatever they call it, Demogorgon, which is
a demidog.
Demidog, yeah. Which
no, it stood on its hind legs.
No,
so
it's like it'll grow into it'll grow into season 1 monster. Yeah. So I don't know if you call it a baby or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's not a fully grown one. It's got to eat a couple of people.
It ate it.
It's got to eat a couple of people, and then it'll, eat people and get big and walk on its hind legs. But to me, seeing that alive. That whatever we call it, Demogorgon, sure, is it? Seeing the Demogorgon alive at the end to me means that there has to be a gate open somewhere, which I find interesting because I'm like, isn't the whole thing if all the gates are closed in the show's lore that the creatures can't survive? Isn't that how it works? They need to be connected.
Maybe they have to be nearby the open gate.
They have to be connected, be able to connect to the Mind Flayer. Isn't that how like the show's laws kind of?
Or connect to the Upside Down.
Yeah,
I think
basically. So it's like.
Yeah.
To me, showing him doesn't just mean that A, there's a Demogorgon in Russia. It means B, there's a gate open in Russia, potentially.
Potentially.
Do you feel the same or different theory or?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, they were doing tests over there, and they said they were some things open. It's just probably the one in Hawkins is like a really big one.
And well, the other thing I'll say is I don't think the Demogorgon came from Russia. I think the Demogorgon. I don't even think they pretty much bang it on your head during one of the episodes where Erica and Dustin are going through that, driving that go-kart little fucking thing through the Russia facility, and they find like a big cage thing, and they're like, Erica's like, how big did you say the Demogorgon was? And Dustin's like, I have this long. And then she finds a giant stun rod. So I'm pretty sure that whole scene, which if you look in the context of the season, it's like doesn't pay off to anything, is simply supposed to mean that they got a Demogorgon out of that hole and they had captured it. And then I'm assuming that it was in the facility. And when the Russians escape at the end of the season, they take with them the Demogorgon back to Russia, is how I played all that. Or else it's like, what was the point of that scene? I feel like that scene was supposed to tell you they've captured a Demogorgon, you know? That's what the whole thing was. And then, of course, the other big thing of the mid-credit scene that everyone on the internet is talking about is, and obviously they chucked in this line to purposely get everyone talking about it for the next year. That is 100% what the point of it is. You have the Russian guards say, not the American, or as they walk past one door, no, not the American, then they grab the other person. So who do you think the American is supposed to or could be?
I think everybody instantly thinks it's going to be Hopper. Mm-hmm. I think it's either, I don't think that's too easy. I think it's either Dr. Breber, obviously the big
the main scientist.
What's his face from the main scientist from season 1. Or it's just a completely new character.
Mm-hmm. I'm open to either of those. I don't think it's Hopper. I think, now, if you're like, how could that even make sense? How could Hopper survive? I saw someone on the internet actually explain it pretty well, which I was like, yeah, that could be a thing. I don't want it to be a thing, though, which is that like Hopper in the last couple seconds as they cut away could have walked through the crack to the upside down, or, you know, something.
Or he could have been blasted through the crack.
Yeah, or something. I mean,
like that. There was that. Obviously, in the first episode, you see the thing explode and zap everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But then in this one, there's that electrical field because he's put the guy's head through the thing. A lot of gross deaths this season.
There was a lot more graphic this season, I feel.
Yeah, especially with the Mind Flayer flesh monster.
Yeah, it was a lot more graphic.
So potentially he could have been blasted through the upside down. And that's why I'm predicting he's probably stuck in the upside down.
If he's... I kind of, my problem with any of these options though is I'm like, does it not take away a lot from the final moments of the episode and how heavily it's reliant on your emotional state for Hopper and his death? Yeah,
it worked when you watch season 3, but then he comes back in season 4 and it's gonna be great. It's they brought Elle back.
Yeah, but they teased that they didn't leave that as a cliffhanger. Season 1 ended with you knowing that she was alive.
There was no remnants of his body. Everybody else got turned into squishy mush.
They didn't really have time to stop and look for it either, to be fair.
She looked at the place he was standing at the end.
Yeah, but
Joyce, after she turned the thing.
I would rather him be in.
I do enjoy this other key point that I've seen online. The song they use at the end, "We Can Be Heroes," performed by Peter Gabriel, I think. It's been reused from when they did Will's body getting taken out of the quarry from season 1, and obviously we all know that was a fake out as well.
Potentially, I would rather him being upside down than captured by the Russians. Is my thing, I guess.
Yeah,
if I had to pick which direction would go in, but and I'd need it to be done well and whatever else, because at a stage, as I was saying before, if no characters ever die or there's no consequences, it does come off a bit weird or whatever. But so the last thing is the other a big emotional thing that plays out in the final part of this episode is that Joyce, Eleven, Will, and Jonathan are leaving for a different town. They didn't say what town, but it's obviously close enough that they can travel back, because Mike's talking about having 11 come back for Christmas or whatever else, different events. So
I wonder when the next season's going to be set.
Christmas, maybe. Yeah. So it's funny how they have a theme every season. It's like the July 4th, but it's really not a big part of the season. It's just like one.
And then the last one was Halloween.
Yeah, one thing. So they're going in. I thought it was a really sad way to, like, on top of
brutal.
Well, on top of the whole Jim death thing, then you have everyone breaking up, like whatever, but everyone's split apart more so than they ever have been, and it's just like 11. She's leaving her friends. She's leaving Max and Mike. All right. She just lost her dad. Everyone gone. Does she have her powers? Will she be getting them back?
Doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like that's going too well. Then Jonathan's splitting up with. Jonathan has to leave Nancy. It's just really sad. And then you got the whole Jim thing happening. That's sad. All this sort of stuff. That's why I said it was kind of like, I feel like this episode's the end of fucking Empire Strikes Back than anything else. It's like, it's not a particularly happy ending, which I find interesting, considering it's the third season of a show. And they're like, we'll just chuck it out, the sads. Do what you need to do. But yeah, how do you feel about splitting up the party, I guess, and what do you think that means for the next season?
Yeah, I think it was a good move. I guess it makes sense from a character's perspective as well. Obviously, Joyce. The only reason Joyce would have stayed is for Hopper, I guess, and obviously things didn't turn out the way they wanted. Yeah, I guess splitting it up kind of makes it interesting for next season, potentially, with everybody maybe growing apart, I guess, before they come back together. I think, probably Christmas, a Christmas season, I guess, or some sort of holiday where they all get back together.
Which would work out pretty well because it would give them like a year and
another 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months for next season, which would be pretty good, I guess, if they were going to release it on Boxing Day or something, I guess would work. I don't know. You're not going to release on Christmas Day, or a week before Christmas. I don't know, something, but close to Christmas, obviously. That would work. So how do you feel about how many seasons left in the show as well? Because they Duffer Brothers have previously said that. I think when I was doing interviews for season 2, they said at the time they have it mapped out as kind of 4 seasons. But if they when they get closer to the 4th season, if they begin mapping that out season and they need to do 5, then they'll do 5. But either way, they feel like it's 4 or 5, potentially only one more season left. Do you feel like if there's only one more season left that that's kind of the show's running its length, or do you feel like that's too short? Or
at this point, I trust them to make the right decision. And it just depends on how much story they've got left.
It's so funny because I swear back when season 1 came out, at the time they were like, we got storyline. And I was one of those people on the fence for ages, even about the idea of a second season, because I was like, the show doesn't seem like it needs a follow-up at all. Just do something. I was so scared.
For a while, everybody thought it was going to be an anthology show. So but that's become the thing now. So.
And the kids are growing up faster, obviously, now that they're the age of...
And they're all in demand as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Millie Bobby Brown's kind of becoming a growing young star, obviously, and Finn Wolfhard's in a fair bit of stuff as well, and the rest of them do stuff as well. But I feel like those two are the core, the two of the kids, I guess. Yeah. And between season 2 and 3, you can tell how much older the kids have got, and
especially when they do like the cutbacks to previous seasons.
Yes, and you can see how much younger they looked in season 1, and then the same will happen for the next season. And by the time the next season comes out, I don't know how old like they are now. I think they're like a mixture of like 15 to 16, I think, in real life, like around that
in
now.
Real life, I think so.
Like there might be a mixture of like 16, 17 by the time the next one comes out. So it's definitely going to feel really weird and really odd, especially if they age up too fast. So you can't do too many seasons that way anyway, especially if you want to. They're aging too fast that they can't. The show will outpace how old they're supposed to be or whatever they're supposed to be. Yeah. Any final thoughts on this season of Stranger Things before we wrap up?
No, just really happy with it, and keen for more whenever that comes. Because clearly there's got to be more. Like for a second, I thought, "Wow, is that how they're ending Stranger Things? Is this it?" But no.
That's what I'm saying.
They wouldn't have done that tease if not.
It's like I feel like if this is the Empire Strikes Back, then only having one more season would be perfect, I guess, somewhat. Especially if the last season is going to be like, we get Hopper back magically, or something like something that's all about like once and for all ending closing the portals and stopping the Russians, and then getting back our loved ones and whatever else. It's just and then they can end it all happy. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But I feel like it's definitely like one more season. 2, if they start mapping out the story they want to tell in the next one, and it's like, this is too big to do in one thing. Maybe they could even do like 8 episodes and then 6 episodes, and like, fuck it, we just needed those extra 6 to finish telling the story away. And I feel like Netflix, especially because the numbers for this season came out only just the other day or whatever, and they said it like, even though I feel like I haven't seen much promotion for it, to be honest, or too many people talking about it. Like, I've seen people, but not that much. The numbers were pretty good. They said like 3 million 3 days or something.
They don't really need to do too much promotion. They just need to get their base to watch the thing, and they do that by just showing it at the top of the thing when it loads. Their number one thing, Netflix just auto playing stuff at the top of the thing when you turn it on. So I'm looking forward to more for sure. Thank you for joining us on this review discussion. Make sure you give the video a like if you are watching it at youtube.com/Explosion Network, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter at Vivaladil, Vivaladil. You can follow Ash on Twitter at Ashley Holby, at ASHLEYHOBLEY, and you can follow Explosion Network at Explosion Pod, and check out explosion.com for all our reviews, the aforementioned singular reviews for Stranger Things if you want, news, videos, podcasts, including What Do You Want to Watch, our movies, TV, and media podcasts, which you'll find on all your podcast services. And if you have any thoughts about anything we've talked about today, drop them in the comments below. Like, do you think that Jim is really dead, or is he stranded in the Upside Down? Find out in 18 months, most likely. Or you can tweet your thoughts at us, of course. We will see you in the next one. Bye.